DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. We're joined now by Brandon Dart, former Ute, dad of Jaxson Dart, who will be going somewhere between number 3 and number 33 in the NFL draft. Mock drafts are just all over the place lately. Brandon, good morning.
Good morning, guys. Thanks for having me.
Can you narrow it down for us at all, somewhere between 3 and 33? You got any teams you think you really can't? You don't know either, huh?
No, I can get you to probably 9 to 33, maybe 34. But it's a little bit of a wide range.
I read a piece here this morning. It was written in 2021, and it's about Jackson's ascension, going back to where you didn't want to coach Little League football, but the coach didn't show up. And so you had to do it, and then going to Roy, and then transferring guardianship, I believe, to your wife's sister for corner and all these things. And then Zach Wilson got all the run with going down to John Beck, but Jaxson did too. I don't know why they would do. We didn't hear about that as much as we did with Zach, but the point I'm making is there's so much that goes into get to where you are now and where he is, most importantly. And when his name gets called, how do you think you and your wife are going to react, knowing that this has been virtually a lifelong project to get to this point?
I think you're exactly right. As a quarterback, there's just a lot that goes into it. And I think it just kind of depends on what you're willing to do as far as, parents and a family. And when it all boils down, everybody's going to have to sacrifice, whether it's time, obviously, finances, and then just the amount of travel that is going to be required to get the appropriate training and to be around the best, to be developed, to be able to, take your talents and improve to the point where you can have, obvious opportunities to play at the college level. And then from there, to hopefully, make your dreams come true and get drafted to the NFL. And it's a full family sacrifice from, the mom, dad, and obviously the brothers. But when it boils down to it, Jackson's the one that has to put in the work and really has to become addicted to the process. And he is a very process-driven individual. And obviously you got to perform, on the field on Fridays and then Saturdays. And here soon it'll be Sundays.
Were there ever tough times in this journey where someone wanted to pull the plug and say, "Yeah, never mind, let's stop this"?
I think sometimes when you look at your finances and you see what the training takes and what the travel and whatnot, but that's just when it boils down to when Jaxson had a desire. We shared that, and there was never a time where we thought, it's not worth it, or, why do we need to, be in Southern California this weekend or that weekend? Why do we need to be separated as a family, so on and so forth? There was never any doubt. There's been a lot of tough moments throughout his career, but it was never, as far as, the work or what was needed or required for him to be able to continually develop. There was never a question in our mind. He's always had a dream, and that'll be fulfilled here. A part of that will be fulfilled here tomorrow.
They go through extensive research NFL teams do, and conversations, and with the kid and with everybody else. I'm wondering, has he heard from one team or maybe two teams more than others?
Oh yeah, when it boils down, there's going to be a few of those that just put in an extra or an extraordinary amount of work, just as far as him as a person. Obviously, the film study, and then it's just spending time with him at Ole Miss at their facilities. They send some rather large amounts of playbooks and just really see how his mind works, how he reacts, what he's able to retain. and then just, who he was as a person in Oxford, Mississippi, back home. And they really try to do a deep dive, and you probably narrow it down to, 3 or 4 teams. And then at the same time, you just never know who's going to be the one that really, wants him and pulls the plug.
Can you tell us those teams? Are you comfortable with that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think obviously the Giants, Cleveland are probably the top 2, and then New Orleans is the third, and then you just have probably 3 others that are just a step behind. But those 3 are probably the top 3 that have put in an extraordinary. And then one more, Pittsburgh. So those 4 are the ones that have really done a lot of due diligence on Jax.
But you don't have any idea if Cleveland and the Giants are looking at him thinking we can trade back and get him, or Pittsburgh's looking at him thinking trade up and get him. So there's still tons of wiggle room.
Right. I think that's where it gets a little messy. I know that, I'm assuming Cleveland and New York have kind of the same mindset where they're right neck and neck, and they're going to try to, trade, back into the first round to grab him. And then obviously Pittsburgh sitting there at 21. So, that's kind of where, when you want to narrow it down to the range, they said that his sweet spot is probably going to be in that 20 to 30, but then at the same time, there's always surprises, and there's never any way that you can predict it. And there's been situations where there's been a team, obviously last year with Atlanta, where just out of the blue, they make a pick and nobody ever expected it. So when talking to John and Taylor Kelly, they basically just said, you can think of all the, million different scenarios. You're never going to be right. So it's not even worth your time thinking about it, but that's pretty much all you do. Day in and day out is just you read a little bit here, you read a little bit there, and then we lay in bed and it's like, okay, what if this happens? What if that happens? What are we going to do? I mean, it just drives you crazy.
Yeah, and then you got somebody like a Purdy or a Brady last way long and then end up being starters in the NFL. So it is a crazy situation. You've mentioned that you gave a little bit of a range. The range includes possibly into the second round, which then would extend it a day, which I would think might be some mental torture at that point. And first round it goes way long. I mean,
it does.
Yeah, so you have to sit through all that stuff. What is going to be on the agenda for the family during this time? I mean, is he going to watch reruns of something else to take his mind off it, or how are you going to just live the day?
Yeah, he's been back in Green Bay the last couple of days. There's been a lot of vacillation from him, just kind of the back and forth. But when it's all said and done, we're going to I'll give them a little bit of a plug, but we'll be at the Miki Couture corporate offices. They've got a event center there up in Ogden that is perfect for this situation, and we're going to have a lot of friends and family and ex-teammates and coaches, and got catered food, and it's just going to be kind of a big just hangout and celebration when it boils down to it. But I think Jaxson has a tea time tomorrow at 9 a.m. and he's got the next 2 days planned to the minute on keeping himself busy, just so he can keep his mind off of the whole thing. But when it's all said and done, that's, I think, the big part of why he wanted to be home, is that he'll be able to relax and be around those that have supported him throughout the many years, and just enjoy the day no matter what, because when it's all said and done, he's going to be a high draft pick. And we know that he's put in just the amount of work and the time, and he's had a really, really good pre-draft process. And there's nothing else that he could have done to put himself in a better situation than he is today. And when his name is called, whether it's the the 9th pick or the 20th pick, or say the 33rd or the 34th. That's a day of celebration.
Sure.
It's going to fulfill a childhood dream, and we should celebrate that no matter what.
Is he 300 off the tee?
I think when he was at the Senior Bowl, they had a long drive contest going on, not just for the college kids, but like it was the real deal. And he steps up there, he breaks the record for distance and for ball speed coming off of the club. So
wow.
the dude can rip the ball, but he's definitely not a scratch golfer.
Oh, well, I don't know who's going to be in the foursome, but don't bring Eric Kerr because he's a lousy golfer.
Yeah. We're well aware of that.
You just mentioned all those potential draft picks, right? You threw out a bunch of numbers, and PK will always get on me for, leaning too heavily on history. But I just think NFL teams are addicted to quarterbacks. And most of the time, there's 3 quarterbacks in the top 10, and there's almost always 3 in the top 15. Gone back to the 2017, 18, 19, 20. So you've got a pretty good sample size of how many of these guys are good, and many of them are, and a few of them definitely aren't. And when I see that, I just think, the thing I hear about, you hear about Shedeur Sanders, and I just think people are lying, hoping that he'll fall to him. And then the thing I hear about Jaxson Dart is that in Kiffin's system there's a lot of pre-snap reads, and there aren't as many reads to make after the snap. And it works, right? Tons of stats, tons of yards, tons of points, really good teams in a very competitive league. Do you feel like you or he or the people around him are having to talk NFL teams and he can really do this? He just didn't have to because of Kiffin's offense?
Well, I think there is a bit of a misconception, and they like to say, well, Kiffin has never produced a quarterback that has been successful in the NFL. And I think a lot of that misconception just boils down to there's been a lot of evolution in his system. Even if you say, Matt Corral to Jaxson, they have completely different offensive coordinators. They've pulled in like Joe Judge, who was the head coach at New York and was with Belichick, with Brady, and they've put in his concepts are pro concepts, and they do a lot of pre-gaming where every week they change what they're doing. A lot of that comes from how Belichick runs. Their scheme will change week by week. And there's a lot of work from a mental standpoint that Jax has to put in to really understanding how they're going to attack that defense, the calls that he makes. And I think when teams have been able to sit down with Jaxson and truly understand what he had to do at the line of scrimmage, the adjustments that he has to make on the fly, a lot of that stuff they create opportunities, but a lot of that is Jaxson per se, really understanding when he's looking, at the back of the secondary and the linebackers and whatnot. He's putting his receivers in situations where he knows he can attack that defense. And then the post-snap, the route combinations, or the different things that the receivers will have to do to adjust their routes to fit in to where they're, the holes where they can be open. And I think when the teams like Coach Dayball, for instance, really understood what, Jaxson would do and how, he and the receivers would get on the same page where they would break routes off or they would elongate them or deepen them, and just things that would happen post snap. It really blew their mind. And there's been repeated teams that have told the Ole Miss coaching staff that Jaxson, from a cerebral standpoint, is by far and above any other quarterback that they've had, throughout the pre-draft process, and just his knowledge, his understanding, and his ability to retain and really adjust on the fly when the bullets are flying.
We talk about situations, and kids got to get in the right situation, and there's all sorts of critics out there. I'm listening to Colin Cowherd the other day driving home, and I don't know if you heard it, but he's running his mouth about Oh, he's the kid went to the same high school as Zach Wilson. He's from the same state, and Zach hasn't had the best thing going on. So somehow that leaks down and connects Jaxson Dart to it. I don't particularly see it, but and from your perspective, you just talked about the Giants. That make me a little nervous because it's the same media market, obviously, and another kid coming from Utah from the same high school, no less. Your thoughts on making sure, and you really can't make sure, I guess, that he gets in the right situation that allows him to succeed. Or maybe you don't think about that, and he's at whatever situation he will succeed.
Yeah, it is. It's a double-edged sword for sure. And through this process, which is far different than the college system, is that you have no control over who picks you. And so there's even been situations where Jackson's like, "Cal, I don't know if I want to do as good in these meetings because I don't want to go to that, that location." Yeah. And when it's all boiled down, there's so much movement in coaching in the NFL that you really just have to do your very, very best because you never know, who's going to be at a different situation down the line in your career. And you want to, put your best foot forward. But yes, I think, to your point, PK, the only thing that we can do is pray that he will get himself in the best situation possible because, with Zach, people can say whatever they want about Zach, but Zach was not put in a situation to be successful. That was not on him. And as far as Jack goes, and I'm not even going to say what I really think about Colin Cowherd, but when you say, things like that and you put in comparisons to Jaxson with some of these other guys, you basically have done no homework at all to really understand what Jaxson Dart is about, what his superpowers are, and really what it's going to take for him to be successful. And there's really is no way that he's not going to be able to make a good career in the NFL just because of who he is, how he goes about his business, and the amount of work and effort that he will put in and day out to be successful.
Brandon Dart joining us, father of Jaxson Dart. There's been a lot written and said lately about the state of college sports and all that. And Jaxson had to transfer at USC. Obviously, the coaching changed, and the coach wanted to bring in his own QB. Is college football as broken and as crazy from the inside as it seems to be from the outside? Do you hear the stories and hear the talk and think, man, if you only knew? Or in a way, with Jaxson, with his talent, and once you got past the USC situation and found a home, was he insulated from some of that?
Well, I think that is, college football is, in a sense, it is broken in the structure and really not having any parameters put around how, what kids can do and so on and so forth. And I think what it really boils down to is the support system around the player. And really, especially with quarterbacks, you see these quarterback kids that, they start out and their main focus is, the amount of money that they can make or and instead of really the situation and the development. And that is, parents have a big role and it's either good parenting or bad parenting. And when you don't make the main thing and you're chasing the dollar, you're gonna put your son in a bad situation. You're gonna be bouncing teams, all over. There's a few kids that come to mind, like the Rashada kid and a few others, and I obviously followed like Nico, and Jaxson has a close relationship with him, and it all just boils down to really understanding, put your child, whatever position he's in the best situation for him to be developed so that he can get to the next level. And who cares if he misses out on a few $100,000 here or there? That doesn't really matter. And that's where, like, Jax has always had the mindset of, I have an ultimate goal. I want to be developed as the best that I can. And you have to have consistency in coaching, consistency in the offense, and the understanding to build a team around you. And you can't do that if you're bouncing all over the place.
I tease the Corner Canyon coach because I've known him for many, many years, but I think he is just virtually a genius being able to coach football. And I saw all your kids' games, because my wife is teaching there, and so and she teaches PE, so we've known the coach for many years, and I enjoy watching them play. How much did that help him in his development to go there?
I think it was essential on like two fronts. Obviously, the first and the easiest is just the system in and of itself puts a quarterback in a situation where he can really show his capabilities and Care's offense in a way when operated the way that it should, you're going to put up numbers. So that's kind of the easiest. The second part of that whole thing, which I don't think people truly understand, is that there's very few coaches probably in America that is as dedicated as Coach Care is in the everyday things. So it's the off-season work, the weight program, the sprint work. And not only does he, when you're looking at the success of the football team, flip over and look at the success of the track team. And all the football players are going to be, for the most part, either a sprinter or a thrower, and they're going to be on relay teams. And they work, 365 days a year. And so from that standpoint, like Eric knows, it's like you have to be, bigger, faster, stronger. But at the same time, it's just the dedication that he has to creating a culture where hard work and your very best is expected day in and day out. And then from a schematic standpoint, his evolution or his ability to adjust, offensive schemes to his talent is unlike, any other coach that I've ever seen. And Jaxson will say, all the time that, Coach Care is one of the smartest and brightest in his ability to scheme. And you saw that on full display last year, when Helaman went down, he had to change, the offensive scheme. And then you get into the playoffs and he's basically, pounding the ball and running for, over 300 yards a game, game in and game out. And who, what other coach is able to do that where, they're known to you're going to throw for over 4,500. And you're also going to rush for, 2,500 too. But when he flips that on his head and it's just like, hey, we're going to run the ball 40 times, like right down your throat and run for, 400 yards in the state championship game to win it, because that's what the team, has to do. I mean, that's just a credit to him and his ability to make adjustments on the fly. And we're very, very lucky to have a coach like him in the state. And he could take his talents, to the college level and make a lot more money. But he, that's how much he just loves, his kids, his community, and his school. And, I'm hopeful that at some point in time he'll be able to, fulfill a role at a college level and really show people what he's all about.
I'm with you on that. I've been waiting for that. I guess coaching your kids has its own pull, though, and he's gotten to do that, so I get it.
One more.
But it would be really intriguing. And I hope if he does it, he says at one of the local schools so we have a front row seat to it. Because it'd be really interesting to see how that works out. And it'll be interesting to see how the draft works out. Good luck. Good luck handling all the stress.
Oh yeah, no, I appreciate it. We do our best over here. Lots of medication, and we'll be all right.
All right. Thanks, Brandon. We appreciate the time.
You.
All right, there's Brandon Dart, the former Ute, dad of Jaxson Dart. And we'll see where they go. The NFL's pretty addicted to quarterbacks, but there have been drafts where they've restrained themselves. So possibly it will be a long wait. But usually 3 quarterbacks in the top 15 is
I think he'll go in the first round.
Pretty common.
He's a player.
Yeah. But there have been years, and there was one just like 2022, just 3 years ago. That was when Kenny Pickett, I think, was the first quarterback off the board at 20. They really restrained themselves that year. So it happens occasionally. DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. When we come back, everything you missed in this show, we'll get you up to speed next. Stay with us. 9 a.m. Slacker Radio Headlines brought to you by Trajan Wealth. Call Trajan Wealth today, your local trusted financial fiduciary, 801-899-7600, or visit their website at TrajanWealth.com. Covered a lot of ground this morning, PK. The playoffs continue.
Freaking Champ Bailey over here.
The playoffs continue. Lakers win the game they had to win. They're 1-1 with Minnesota.
Did they have to win it?
Yes, they did.
Series was over if they lost?
0-2, that makes even you nervous, and you don't really care about home court advantage and first team to 4 and that. But OT with 2 home losses?
0-2, yeah. No, you're right.
0-2, there are very few. It has happened, but there are very few teams that have come back from that.
Yeah, I wouldn't count on it. Down 0-2 and both of them at home. Yeah, you're in trouble. You're in big trouble.
You're in big trouble. It's not over, but you are in big,
But they got
big
the game,
trouble.
and I really felt like watching the game, my feeling with Minnesota was like, oh, we got what we wanted, and shots aren't dropping tonight.
Yeah.
So we'll just get out of here.
Yep.
I'm not going to sweat it. Finch is like, yeah, whatever.
Move on. It's best 3 out of 5. We have home court. Let's go to Minnesota and win twice.
Yeah. Which, is going to be no easy task. But I felt like you just feel the Lakers, the home crowd, Jack, Luka, great player, great game.
Great right out of the start. He was on fire from the
And
get-go.
his passing is just sensational. So is LeBron's, for that matter. And, I don't think they have enough to win it all. But, any given game, obviously, they're extremely dangerous.
We had Tim Lacombe on, and he thinks it's the Thunder in the West. There's a bunch of cool stories and a bunch of star players and a bunch of intriguing series, and he thinks when the dust clears, it'll be Oklahoma City.
What's incredible so far, not that Memphis is a good team right now because they've got issues and fired the coach here recently, but if he's not the MVP, he's the second player. He's a runner-up. SGA has not gone off. Williams has really taken huge steps to where they've got to be ecstatic. Speaking of the management and the fans of Oklahoma City, to watch Cody Williams' older brother, he's turned himself into a bona fide, real good player. He's, right now, as a third option, if you go SGA and Holmgren, and maybe you move him up to 2, but if you had him as a third, the Bulls did not have a third option this good. Now, that number 1 option was really good.
Well, let's get past MJ. Yeah, I'm trying to think who the third option was.
Offensively, there really wasn't anybody.
But it was, by committee. It would depend on the game.
Whoever
Right.
MJ decided, I'm going to throw you the ball, you're going to hit the shot, or I'm going to punch you in the mouth.
And whoever team decided to leave.
Yeah.
One night.
Horace Grant.
Yeah, and on the first, the first group,
because
Horace
they were
Grant.
different.
On the second group, I was thinking Kukoc. But then there were nights it was, Kerr had his 20-point nights too, so you never really knew.
Kukoc was a good
and Paxson in the earlier
player.
group. Yeah. Thank you for that, Rick. Thank you. I knew you had to do that.
That's
Do you think
what I had heard for years?
Do you think Jalen is his peaked here? I mean, it's 3 years in the league. Every year has been better.
No.
The numbers just keep going up.
Yeah. If they win it this year, that is extremely scary to the league.
Fact.
Yeah. I think it's awesome. For years I used to hear, Chris Hill, he'll never hire an LDS coach. What did he do?
Yeah, Kyle Whittingham.
Yeah, so shut up. And for years the small market's got no chance. Well, this is
Well, the Spurs won 5, and now here come the Thunder.
But I don't count the Spurs.
Why?
Because the no taxes, the warmer weather, people make exceptions on that stuff. And they got the number 1 pick. If anybody gets the number 1 pick and he's Tim Duncan, you're going to be good. OKC did not get the number 1 pick.
Players have forced their way out of cities. And he did flirt with leaving at one point, but he didn't.
But he was an odd dude.
He was.
He's a Caribbean dude. He just wants, look at his hair now. He's Bob Marley. I mean, come on. I'm not saying all that's true, but I'm saying that's the perception. Oklahoma City is the tiniest of the tiny.
It's true.
And so you can make exceptions. You can go, yeah, but the point. I get your point, but here, there's no yeah buts with OKC because we had the other guys take off.
The fact that it would be another small market team, that would really double down.
Small market team, not
that
another.
Would really double down.
One in which Kevin Durant said, nope, I'm gone. It quadruples down. This is by far. They make San Antonio look like NYC.
If they do it.
Right.
Although I do think they'll go into the finals. I do think
They gotta do it.
for all the stories in the West, right. But I do think when they get to the finals, I am intrigued by Boston. I think Boston will beat Cleveland and come out of the East.
Okay, yeah, fine.
But the Thunder are so young that if they get to the finals, it's a huge step forward. I mean, that's another check on the box, and they're close to doing it, and they're young. And
Getting out of the West is tougher than getting out of the East, so if they get to the final, they're going to win a title, even if it's not this year.
And the last time I did that, you told me to be careful, and you were right. So I'm trying not to do that anymore.
But be careful about what?
Well, in Oklahoma City, got to the final against Miami, and they were young and they were good, and I said they're going to do it, and you said, be careful about that. And sure enough, they traded Harden away. And so it began to unravel.
Right, but...
And they were still really good, and they blew the 3-1 lead to the Warriors
Westbrook
later.
and Durant are sort of drama queens here. And
It does feel like a different vibe with this group.
Yeah.
It is early. They haven't come into their big money, had their most success. They're still on the way up the mountain.
And maybe something will derail it. Maybe ego or injury or...
No, or maybe they're about to have a San Antonio-like run. To your earlier point where we started all this, and the whole league will be scared, and there'll be nothing you can do about it, and they'll be able to add more good young players because they've got everybody's draft picks going forward.
I think by the time we get to year 29 and 30, the only one's going to be able to derail them is the Jazz and Cooper Flag.
Nice.
Mark my words.
Mark my words. The Tennessee Titans say they will not move out of the number one slot and that they will take Miami quarterback Cam Ward with the top pick. We just had Brandon Dart on, father of Jaxson Dart, and he talked about the whole process, youth to high school to college to the pros, tea times to distract Jaxson from the big day. And it does take forever. It's so long between picks in the first round of the NFL draft.
It sort of drives me nuts.
I really can't sit there and watch the whole first
Get
round.
on with it.
I gotta in and out. What's the playoff game that's on? Let's watch that.
The first round in the NBA lottery show. Get on with it. And every freaking game going to Secaucus at the end.
Get on with it.
And you can
Where's
see
your
the
patience?
player, or the play, I mean.
Yeah.
And somehow it takes 3 times as long to reach the conclusion that the rest of us have seen in 30 seconds.
We know what happened.
Yeah.
And sometimes they never reach the conclusion. You're like, why did we review that? You just totally got it wrong.
Well, I don't think they don't even make a half-hearted call.
Yeah. That just happened with Real Salt Lake. After the whole VAR thing and the red card to Diego Luna, they just rescinded it. And apparently the only person on the planet who thought it was a red card was the ref who was looking at it.
Because it's freaking ego.
There is that thought. And he was the 4th official the previous week. The elbow happened right in front of him. Help Marufo out. They didn't do it. Whatever. All right, so then you got the Rose Bowl. Your game. It's going to kick off an hour earlier so the Sugar Bowl doesn't start so late and go so late. Adjusting the whole thing. As long as you get sunset over the San Gabriel Mountains during the game, if it comes in the 4th quarter instead of the 3rd quarter, I can live with that.
How lucky am I? I've covered the Rose Bowl and the Sugar Bowl.
Nice.
And multiple Fiesta Bowls. Not just the Utes, but long before the Utes.
Cotton, orange?
No.
No.
I have no interest in those 2 games.
Didn't know if you went. And I'm sure there was a staff of millions, but you would have been right in the middle of college hoops. So even if they sent a lot of people to that BYU Cotton Bowl game, it wouldn't have been you probably.
Correct.
You were right in the middle of college hoops in that era. So
Yes.
And the Cubs and the Dodgers playing the game of the day. How about a 2-out homer in the 9th inning to tie it up and send it to extra innings where the Cubs complete the comeback and win 11-10?
The Cubs, man, the wind's blowing out. They had the other day, last week, they were up 7-1 on the Diamondbacks, and it was a day game. And I thought, this sucks. I'm going to go to the gym. So I go to the gym, pound out 2-3 miles. I thought, I'll check in the game. What? It's 11-7. So I get it on my phone and then proceed to watch the Diamondbacks give up 6 runs. So I missed all the good times and caught nothing but the bad times.
Good work by you.
And then they shipped a couple of pitchers down to the minors, brought up 2 or 3 pitchers, and away they go.
Cubs and Diamondbacks aren't 2 teams getting a lot of the headlines in the National League, but they are very good and right there. It seems like a definite case of haves and have-nots. There's already a lot of separation.
Yeah, but we're starting to get in 25 games.
Mm-hmm. And there's 6 teams playing 600 ball.
There's time.
With 600 ball being the measure of and there's time to cool off and let injuries pile up, and it's hard to sustain that pace. And like injuries to pitching.
But I think
staff
all these
just seem
teams
like
are
a given.
legitimate.
Yeah. You don't see a fraud in the Mets, Cubs, Padres, Dodgers, Giants, Diamondbacks?
Maybe Giants.
Those are the 6. Don't doubt Buster Posey.
Maybe the Giants, though. That would be because they're the only surprise in this group.
There's only 2 teams playing 600 ball. You believe in Cleveland and Texas over in the American League? Nobody else is there. Even the Yankees are a little
Well,
below.
I was listening to an interview with Bruce Bochy. He just turned 70. And I watch a lot of times in the afternoon. I watch MLB Network because they go over all this stuff. And they were talking about the pitching for Texas being legit. And so it caught my ear, I guess, in this case.
If someone like Bruce Bochy has legit pitching, it's go time. Here we go.
He won 4 World Series. That's sort of good.
DJ PK, for more on the NBA playoffs, wherever you get your podcast, go listen to DJ PK, Tim Lacombe. And for more on the NFL draft, DJ PK, Brandon Dart. Wherever you get your podcast, the entire show is available. Your feedback's coming up next. Stay with us.
And it's all over almost here.
Don't go nowhere.
DJ PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. How do you think Shadur Sanders will do in the NFL? Melody wants to know if his dad comes with him. The thing I've heard about Sanders that I actually think could carry some weight is that if he's not going to be a star right out of the gate, and very few quarterbacks are, so I'm going under the assumption that he won't just be some massive star right out of the gate. If you're not producing, even if Dion doesn't say anything, he's such a star and he's got so many people who go to bat for him. Does whatever coaching staff or front office draft him, if things don't go great right away, does everything come down on them?
Well, yeah, but that has nothing to do with Dion.
You think that's just life in the NFL?
Yeah. I mean, look what happened to Salah.
Didn't go well with Wilson.
Gonzo.
Gone. Defensive coach.
Just the nature
Young
of
quarterback. No patience.
As Brandon Dart said, these things change so frequently. I mean, just
coaches are moving, coordinators are moving.
All over the place. I do think, and Steve Young has talked about this with us, that quarterbacks are set up to succeed earlier now better than ever. I mean, just look at Daniels with Washington.
Mm-hmm.
Phenomenal season. I didn't think he was that good, but yet he showed me.
And they won.
Yeah.
And Joe Burrow won pretty quickly in Cincinnati. Mahomes in the second year. Yeah.
Was pretty good right off the bat. The game is so sophisticated, and it is just year-round training. And we're talking about...
So forget what I said about being patient. If he doesn't hit right away, well... then they should be held accountable.
Right. And I have to see the situation in the team, obviously. But you look at Jaxson Dart. He's been training for this since he was 10 years old.
Yeah.
And they sent him down. He mentioned Brandon Dart. You can go listen to it. Mentioned John Beck and Taylor Kelly, ASU former quarterback. Last quarterback to lead them to 10-win seasons consecutively, which is well over a decade now. Those are the guys working down there. I guess maybe it didn't get as much run because Zach was local and we heard about it. But Jaxson was working with John and Kelly doing their thing down there, and they've got some specialization, and they're ready to go to an extent. You can't go crazy on them, but ready to go. But you look at freaking Daniels, man. All of a sudden, man, it just get new ownership, get a draft pick, and get a coach in there, and now it looks so bright for those guys.
And third in the league with the rushing game. They can beat you more than one way. And that division is ripe. Philly's there, but the other guys are struggling to figure it out.
Yeah, but they could turn it around. Now, Philly's been good for a number of years.
They have been.
Washington's pretty quick, and who's to say the Cowboys and Giants can't do it? I loved that division as a kid. Just, I didn't pay a lick of attention to college football compared to what I did the NFC East.
But you're all into the NFC East.
Yeah, I mean, that was literally in my backyard.
Right. Well, and there was a time there where that was the best division in football for a long time. So everybody was paying attention to it, even if you didn't live in that part of the country.
And Roger Staubach. Just saying the name.
Got you going.
It's just, wow, Roger Staubach. How he was not president, I'll never understand.
Yeah, there's more money to be made in commercial real estate.
What he wanted to be? Is it a venture capitalist or capitalist venturist?
Venture capitalist.
I never understood that. It's like Nikhil Walker Alexander or Alexander Walker. Which one? Pick.
It's Nikhil Alexander Walker.
I know, but I could never get that confused.
I did only because the initials. I just learned it was nah, and then I knew. Just got nah.
And Roger, the capital venturist, is he?
Okay, you're just messing around now. It's time to go. Jake and Ben are coming up next right here on The Zone.